Chin, bullets fail. So,
I think you just, as a general rule, it's gonna go with the angle.
yeah.
But-
Just like I said, those two shootings we had, and then what they started teaching at our range was that the bullet's gonna deflect opposite of the slope. So almost at perpendicular. So, at any direction. So if we're shooting outside to inside, it'll go down, inside to outside, it'll go up.
Well, dang, we're gonna reach that.
So, yeah, I wanna try that out now.
No, we got something fun to do.
So.
Actually, I misspoke. It says firing from the outside, the deflection will actually go downwards.
Okay.
According to this graph.
That confirms my end of it, but you want me to check that?
Sheriff.
I've been wrong lots of times.
Okay, can we get back to the topic
Yeah,
at
are
hand?
you- yeah.
We're rolling.
Recording, okay.
I got no pride, so, been wrong
So
lots
it,
of
yeah,
times.
but bullets do weird things too, because yeah, I mean, they'll careen up, they'll go up, I mean, they don't do stuff they're supposed to do. Anyways, going back to it, she pled guilty, this is December 29, 2020, she pled guilty March 11, 2021. I talk about a good relationship with your prosecutor's office. From what I explained to you guys, from my perspective of it, from your understanding of it, does that sound like a good shoot to you?
Yeah, she was trying to run over your buddy.
Yeah, and she physically hit him with a car, right?
Was, I didn't hear the whole thing. Was your buddy still with the car?
We thought he was underneath the car based upon the perspective that we had from the angle, because he went down underneath the car from our perspective, is what it looked like. So, we look at that, but everybody would agree here, unless somebody disagrees wholeheartedly, that this is probably gonna be a good shoot, right? It's a good shoot? Okay, we were back at work within 3 weeks, but department policy is that the IA investigation doesn't start, or at least move to the next step, until the criminal investigation. We've been criminally cleared by the prosecutor's office. March 11, 2021, 2.5 months afterwards, she pleads guilty to her criminal charges, admitting that she struck an officer with a car, admitting that she did these things while trying to flee during the commission of a violent felony, right? October 15th was when I finally got a phone call from the prosecutor's office saying that, oh, by the way, you were cleared criminally. Have that good relationship with your PA's office, and you won't have to leave your guys hung out for 10.5 months like that. That's rough, working like that, knowing that, what am I gonna do if I get into another shooting or another use of force incident? When I still have the open IA, I have the open criminal aspect. Yes, my chief has shown to me that he's got absolute confidence that I'm gonna be cleared, but do you understand how there's a mental impact or aspect to that?
Because you end up in another one again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
And when it's your second one, you're like, man, the odds are not in your favor, right? So I don't want to be in that position. I'll make a side note too, when the major called me, because I called the PA's office, they told me I was cleared. A week later, the major calls me and goes, yeah, sorry, it wasn't that clear cut of a shooting. That's why it took so long. Guys, perception, be careful about what you say with certain things on there. That still doesn't sit well with me. You may have never meant anything by it, but understand that words do matter under those circumstances. So, finally getting that behind me, moving on. Oop. All right. Closure, guys, is a very important thing. I got ahead of myself, sorry. Closure is a very important thing with these sort of things. Having it get behind you, having that, being able to move on from that is critical. That's why I said it's important in these officer-involved shootings to have that relationship for your IA investigation, for your criminal investigation, these sort of things. It's not saying to rush it, but at least have some sense of urgency to it. Don't leave your people out there working with this stuff hanging over their head. Get it behind them. We're gonna hit on the last section. You guys want to take 10 minutes, or you just want to go ahead and make it the last section? All right. Everybody recognizes this video.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, Sheriff, you'll get it soon enough. All right, ready?
Grab his dick and twist it! Oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight, dude! Twist that dick! Twist this dick! Twist this dick! Oh my god! Oh, dick twist!
All right. Hey, as spectators, we get into stuff, right? Sometimes a little too much, like this guy. We like to. Who are your sports fans? Like I know we got Chiefs fans, Cardinals fans, right? People are big fans of sports, and we like watching it. What do? We always get, some of us get a little bit superstitious with it, where I gotta wear a certain jersey, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, otherwise my team won't win. But in reality, does it really have any effect on the outcome? Maybe how much you're cheering at the game is gonna help motivate them.
Yes.
But how much, yeah. How much of a difference is it gonna make? Not much of one. Law enforcement is not a spectator sport, very much so, we all know that. To be a spectator, it's not a good position. Furthermore, we don't have the luxury of going 5 or 6 days out of the week, knowing when game time is going to be. Our training and our development is a constantly evolving thing that we need to be doing and taking the time out of our day, every single day, to improve ourselves. And I'm not sitting here telling you guys gotta sit and listen to me rant for 6 hours, 7 hours like you are right now. This could be 10 minutes out of your day, 5 minutes out of your day. How are you doing your in-service trainings? What are you doing? Airsoft guns can be just about $100, $150 for quality force-on-force training. You don't need to spend $500 on a simunition. Even then, what is the quality of your training? We see some agencies, bigger agencies, I think are guiltier of this. They have a tendency, because they got to crank so many people through, they're just, let's get through the quals, we'll throw a little bit of something for like a scenario on them, and we'll move on with that. Whereas it seems almost smaller agencies have a tendency to connect better with the community and get a facility to work on building searches or an active shooter response. But what's the quality of your in-service training? Are you making it geared towards things that maybe your agency would encounter, or things that your agency has seen? Are you using it as a debrief? Have you used that training before? Taking the lessons learned and the value that you've gotten from it? That's like every day somebody gets a new plate carrier and they go out to the range, and that's what they look like on that first day, right? You know, somebody's running, they just eat shit. Are you training with your gear? And the gear that you're given, it's cool that like we can get all these new bells and whistles, ballistic helmets, bunkers, but have you trained with that bunker? Have you even just, like Greene County, we're getting assigned bunkers in our cars out there. Are we taking that bunker out of the car maybe in some of your free time and at least practicing with it and learning a little bit with it about how to be able to manipulate and use that bunker to your advantage to keep you safe? Not a thing so much at Webster, but larger agencies, we have briefings at the start of every shift for a squad, right? So you're gonna have a 5, 10, 15-minute briefing. I don't know how many briefings I sat in where it was complete bullshit. We just sat around and we jacked off. But there were other squads that sat, Together. No social distancing too, no masks. Great old days. But we just sat around and we talked for the first 10, 15 minutes of our shift, and then we went out and we started answering calls for service. What could we have done in that time? Could we have taken something as simple as showing the latest video on police activity, or even pulled a body cam from our agency that an officer was like, hey, I would like to show this and get everybody's feedback and take some stuff from this. Or we discussed maybe an incident that happened the night before. You had a barricade, you had a vehicle pursuit. What are the takeaways? What did we do well? What can we do better? What do we need to improve on? Take those little times, those training opportunities for you to actually begin to develop and address some of these issues before now we're having to address it when there's a criminal inquiry and an internal affairs inquiry and these sort of things at that point. And now debriefings. So we've talked several times about critical incident debriefings, right? We all sit around and we talk about our role and what we felt, what we saw, what we perceived during a critical incident. But have we ever taken the time when you're clearing a suspicious person call with your backup unit, have you ever just looked at them after the fact and been like, hey man, is there anything you noticed on there that I could have done differently? Like, do you think my approach, was I not using cover? Or I don't feel like I told that guy I didn't address the fact he kept putting his hands in his pockets as quickly as I should have. Or you asked your other unit, did you see the pocket knife that was on him? How do we address that? Those little things that as you begin to address them, that aren't really a big deal, right? You guys cleared the call, nobody went to jail, nobody got hurt. You're gonna move on and go about your day. But could that have been a really, really big issue not addressing some of those little things if shots have been fired? Absolutely. Take that time just to spend a couple minutes after a call, even if nothing major happened with it, and start discussing those things. It's not a critique or a bash session of each other. It's just one of those things of, hey, is there anything that you caught that I did on that I should have done differently? Or, hey, I saw you do this on scene. That was really interesting. I thought that was a really good, I'm glad that you got him in handcuffs that quickly. I think that helped contain and de-escalate things very quickly. Those little things on there and that feedback is well more valuable because that's a constant flow. It's every call, it's a day-to-day basis where you're getting that actual feedback and that value from those things. If you don't, guess what happens? If we're never going back and we're never addressing the minor mistakes that we make in calls, anybody know what this is? Cancer cells. Becomes cancerous. And when those little issues are not drawn, or not taken care of, they're not addressed, just like a small lump or a small tumor isn't addressed, eventually it spreads and metastasizes and then it kills the host. That's not a place that we want to have within an agency if we're not addressing these officer safety issues and tactics that can improve ourselves, that can make us all come home safely and eliminate these things. Furthermore, if stuff is hanging in your mind about a problem with a call and you're not addressing it and you're not calling it out, that's a problem. We're all professionals here, sort of, Mark. So, but we're all professionals here. Love you too. I felt very comfortable with my squad mates, whether they had 1 year on or 15 years on, coming up to them and addressing an officer safety issue that I saw in there instead of letting it fester about that person's a shitty cop, I don't like them, whatever. Instead of letting that fester, we should be mature enough to be able to take that criticism from other officers and in turn give that criticism because it's constructive, right? Why am I saying that criticism? Why am I addressing that with you? Because I want to see you come home alive to your family. I want to see you come home safe. I want to make sure that whatever happens,